Meantime, there is still no compromise between Democrats and Republicans on how to avoid a government shutdown. The president is accusing Democrats of making unreasonable demands. One of the sticking points for Democrats is a renewal of Obamacare subsidies. They expire at the end of the year.
Tens of millions of Americans are going to get notices indicating their premiums, copays, and deductibles are increasing dramatically because of the Republican refusal to extend the tax credits connected to the Affordable Care Act.
And the White House Budget Office issued a memo to federal agencies directing them to prepare for reduction in force plans should there be a lapse in appropriations. Kevin.
Maddie Rivera on the North Lawn at the White House. Maddie, thank you. As the potential government shutdown looms, senior congressional correspondent Chad Pergram explains how it might all work and what exactly the consequences could be.
The deadline is 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time Tuesday night. If there's no deal, the lights go off October 1st. The Trump administration could furlough millions of federal workers. That's because agencies lack direction from Congress on how to spend money. National parks and Smithsonian museums close. Passport applications are suspended, yet many other federal employees are deemed essential. That includes the military and those who work in national security and intelligence. Air traffic controllers remain on the job. Food safety inspections continue. However, those federal workers still heading into the office don't get paid until the shutdown ceases. The Postal Service continues to deliver the mail, and the government will still cut Social Security checks. Congress meets and lawmakers never miss a paycheck. That's because the Constitution's 27th Amendment prohibits an immediate, quote, varying in compensation for members. At the Capitol, each lawmaker decides who on their staff is essential. Capitol tours are suspended. Congressional restaurants and barbershops shutter, and the trash often stacks up. That's because there's no garbage collection. A walkout by some air traffic controllers at LaGuardia Airport in New York ended the record 35-day government shutdown in 2018-2019. And a violent high-speed chase and shooting involving the Capitol Police sobered up the sides to end a 16-day shutdown in 2013. And one more thing to watch for. The next payday for federal workers is October 10th. So it's possible that that is the true deadline to solve the dispute. Kevin?
Chad Pergram for us on the Hill. Thank you. I have just the right person to talk about all this. House Republican Conference Chair Lisa McClain from the great state of Michigan. She joins me now. Well, you heard Chad lay it all out. Y'all still get paid. A lot of other people may not be paid if they shut this thing down, and the president is suggesting that this is frankly all in the Democrats' court. He is ready to deal. He says congressional Republicans are ready to move forward, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. Or am I wrong?
No, I think you're right. I mean, this will be a shutdown that is on the radical Democrats. Look, here's the reality. Back in March, Schumer and all the Democrats voted for this very same CR. And go pull up all of their rhetoric. We can't have a shutdown. It would be devastating, right? Now, all of a sudden, they want to shut the government down. Why? They want to shut the government down because of Donald Trump. They don't like Donald Trump. They don't like what we've done with the working families tax cuts. They don't like the fact that we have more money in the American people's pockets, and they're fighting against that. Remember, the House passed the CR on a bipartisan basis, the exact same CR that all the Democrats voted for in March. And mind you, Chuck Schumer voted for a CR 13 times. So you really begs the question, what's changed, right? It's a political game, and they're playing it with the American taxpayers' money. I would also offer this. The Democrats want to reverse all of the tax savings that we've done. They want $1.5 trillion, that's right, $1.5 trillion of your hardworking money to make sure that Medicaid is still there for illegals. We're not going to let that happen.
A lot of people not only agree with you, but if you read sort of the tea leaves on X and other platforms, you get the sense that for many, it's I would rather shut it down than to give in to something that absolutely makes no economic sense for the vast majority of American people. Let me share this. This is the president on Friday, again, talking about why the Democrats want this to happen. Listen.
The Democrats want to shut it down, and they want to shut it down because they want to give billions, ultimately trillions of dollars to illegal migrants, people that came into our country illegally. Some of those people are criminals.
But let me share this, though, and this is what the other side would argue. Listen, Washington is about horse trading. You know that. I know that. It's deal making. It always has been. It always will be. And unless and until the Republicans make a deal and give us some of what we want, they'll ask for the moon. They'll take a couple of stars instead to make this happen. We're going to have a shutdown that's going to hurt people where it hurts, not just politically, but in the pocketbook. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, well, that's exactly what we did when we passed the working families tax cut.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of radical, progressive Democrats on the left that don't want the stars. They want everything. They would much prefer, these radical Democrats, to take money out of hardworking Americans' pockets and give it to illegals. And I'm going to share with you, the Republican Party will not do that. Listen, we're open to negotiations, but they have to be a little bit reasonable. And I don't think anybody in their right mind thinks $1.5 trillion of hardworking American taxpayers to give to illegals is reasonable.
Congressman, let me get you on this as well before we wrap up the segment. A lot of people are worried that this idea of James Comey being indicted is the first of many yet to come. They feel like this is weaponization 2.0. Democrats did it, now the Republicans are doing it. But I've heard many members say that's simply not the case in this circumstance. About a minute ago, your reaction to some of the concerns that this is turnabout as fair play or tit for tat, if you will.
Yeah, well, I think the Democrats are losing their mind because they made the rules. And for the first time in a long time, we have a president that has some courage that says, all right, you made the rules, we're going to play by them. Look, no one is above the law. Now, what I would say is there obviously had to be enough evidence to warrant an investigation. And we need to follow the facts and you know, let the rule of law play out. But at the end of the day, I don't know why the Democrats are so upset. Isn't this what they did for the past 4 years?
Yeah.
I mean, I would think they'd be applauding this because this is what they want. I applaud President Trump for actually having the courage and the backbone now to be transparent. Different between the administrations. President Trump tells you what he's going to do, and he does it. He does it very forthright, and he does it with a ton of transparency. You have to at least give him that.
Have to give them that. And by the way, if you ever go on X or some of these other platforms and you see this, there's a graphic out there with all these Trump administration officials that were arrested or at least charged during the last administration. Yeah, it was quite a number. So when people say, oh, this is unprecedented, maybe not so much. The conference chair, Lisa McClain, thank you so much for your time today, Congressman. We appreciate your time.
Enjoy your day.
Thank you. You too.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.